Welcome to the opening line report for week 9 of the NFL season. I am TommyFreezePops, and you usually see me here on Sundays with my guy Patrick Everson. I've been off the last 2 Sundays dealing with wedding happenings. My friend got married on a Sunday, and then I got married this past Saturday. So we were dealing with some family stuff, and we're back. We're back in the fold here. It's an NFL Sunday, and that means after Sunday Night Football, myself and the great Patrick Everson out in Las Vegas take a look at the next week's NFL action. We give you the earliest look and the earliest analysis that you can get on NFL odds in the business. Let me bring my guy on with us here, Patrick Everson. He is out in Las Vegas, Nevada, the epicenter of sports betting. Patrick, how's it going on a Sunday? You must be happy you started the day off with the Broncos victory bright and early.
Real early here, those 6:30 kickoffs. I was joking with a couple of different people in some of the radio and live stream spots I did during the week that this is the time slot that the Denver Broncos deserve to be in. 6:30 a.m. Pacific. Just bury that team with a shovel and bury the shovel, and they win. And obviously they were short dogs, so they covered the number 2. But I was happy to see them get there, but. They still made it interesting. I mean, I didn't even look, but I was talking with people I was at Mandalay Bay this morning before the normal set of early kicks as that game wound down. And I'm just like, if you go back and look at the schedule, I'll bet if you find, if the Broncos could score 21 points a game, they'd be right there. They'd be right in the thick of it because their defense is so good. But that offense is just dreadful. So definitely happy. It did start the day off well for me. It's always a good day when the Broncos win and the Raiders lose. It's like double bonus. Did you meet yourself, Freeze Pops? Or did I fall off?
Sorry about that. We dealing with a technical difficulty there on my end. But yes, great day for you to start with the early Broncos victory. Mm-hmm. I had a smile on my face knowing that Patrick's getting his day because you get going early on a Sunday, right? Yeah, and so not only were you cranking out your content early, your team got the win. So
pretty pleased.
Happy to see that for you. But let's look right ahead to week 9 here. This is why the people are here, Patrick. We got the Rams in Tampa, a rematch of a playoff game from last year. And for some reason, the Buccaneers are 2.5-point favorites, the over-under at 43.5. Those numbers coming to you from FanDuel Sportsbook. And I say for some reason because, wow, did the Bucs look bad on Thursday. But yes. I guess the Rams haven't looked much better this season. So flip a coin. I guess they're just going to give the Bucs the home field advantage here. What are the people that make these decisions saying out in Las Vegas, my friend?
Right. Well, look, on the look-ahead line, this was Pick'em. So what happened from there, and this is from John Murray tonight at the Superbook Sunday night, he said, we opened the Bucs 2.5 after watching the Rams collapse in the second half of their loss to the 49ers. The Rams did not score in the second half of that game after leading 14-10 at halftime. And it's what you and I have talked about this and Kevin and Joe in the past couple of weeks. By the way, congratulations on your nuptials. Congratulations all the way around. But he said what we've said all season long. Both of these teams have been hugely disappointing so far this season. They met in the NFC divisional round last year, played a riveting game, 30-27. I think the Rams winning on a field goal late, right? Something like that. But as John points out, the Bucs are still right in the mix in the NFC South. The Falcons lead at 4-4, and the Bucs are 3-5. So he said out of the gate, they bet us up. They didn't move the line at all, but they did move the juice. So the Bucs are -2.5, juice to -120 tonight. And he said, we took a lot of wise guy action on Tampa on the look-ahead number last week, which, again, I remind you, was Pick'em. So the sharp guys got in at a much better number relative to tonight's opening number, if you will. We'll see how it holds up throughout the week. And that's exactly what John said. He said it'll be interesting to see how they bet the game this week because both of these teams have underperformed relative to what we saw last season and what we saw in that NFC divisional round playoff game.
And I got to say, that game last season in the playoffs was maybe one of the best football games I've ever watched. I mean,
it was pretty fun. It was
It was crazy, man.
Mm-hmm. It was. I totally agree. It was a hugely entertaining game to watch. And then you got, I think the Chiefs divisional round game was after that one. And the Chiefs one was even crazier because it was the Bills Chiefs. I mean, we just got a treat in the divisional round last year between this game, this Rams Bucks game, which we're getting a rematch of this week, and that Chiefs Bills game. It was 2 unbelievable games, but I don't know where the Rams and Bucks are this season, because they just don't look like, at least to this point, like those two teams that gave us a very entertaining postseason game.
Yeah, that was one of the best NFL Sundays I can remember.
You betcha. You betcha.
I was sweating at home. Like, this is amazing. And, you look at the Rams and where they are now, they just have never been able to protect Stafford all season long. Now Cooper Kupp goes out with the injury today. Who knows what his status will be for next week. You got Stafford banged up. So the more you talk about it, it makes sense that the Bucs would be favorites here. But man, it just hasn't looked right for Tampa Bay all season long. And yes, I know at the end of that game against Baltimore, they were still in it, because that's what Brady does. You're never out of it when Tom Brady's your quarterback. But I mean, it just hasn't clicked. And I know he's going through a lot of stuff off the field. The day after that game, he announces his divorce becoming official or officially filed, however you want to say it. So it's been a fascinating team narrative season for both of these teams for very different reasons, but the outcome has been the same, just wholly disappointing across the board. And these are supposed to be two of the best teams in the NFC coming into the season.
Absolutely. Among the, at or near the top of the Super Bowl odds board. And, even more to to add, to kind of build onto your point, the Bucs are 1-5 in their last 6 straight up, and they've lost all 6 of those games against the spread. They haven't covered since week 2. So this is a team that's bad on the field, and they're bad if you're backing them at the betting counter.
Yeah, it just weird year. It's been a weird year overall in the NFL, for being completely honest. So I don't know that I would touch this game. And I think the number is probably going to stay around this 2.5, unless we get maybe Cooper Kupp is going to be active. Maybe it moves to a 1.5. Is Cooper Kupp worth a full point? I'd say probably, but we'll see. So. I'm going to be watching this one throughout the week, but I will not be betting it by any means. And Tom Brady, I love you, but I just don't think I can do that at this point. All right, it is the Week 9 opening line report. I am Tommy FreezePops. That is Patrick Everson. I always point the wrong way. It's backwards on camera here. But it doesn't matter. We're having a good time here on a Sunday night. And let's look at the next game here in the Week 9 slate. Sneaky, interesting game here with the Chiefs as 10.5-point favorites, because don't look now, people. The Titans have a good record. And I know that they're not the Titans of a few years ago, but they got the win up in Indianapolis today. Or, sorry, not Indianapolis. Stand by.
Houston. Titans and Houston.
Different AFC South team.
You got it.
But, man, Derrick Henry becomes, I think he just tied the NFL record for most 200-yard games as a running back. It's still pretty early in his career. So they found a formula, man. They're racking up some wins there in Tennessee in a weak AFC South. So
right.
And look, Malik the second year
Malik Willis. Yep.
Malik Willis. I keep wanting to call him a rookie because he didn't really play all that much last season. But Malik Willis gets the dub. And, do we bring Tannehill back for this one? Is 10.5 too much for the Chiefs? Where's the money moving on this one at the moment, Patrick?
Well, it is coming in early on the dog. And actually, the Superbook, John Murray told me tonight, we opened the Chiefs 11.5, came down to 11. And I just checked. They're still sitting 11. As you said, there's 10.5s out there, but they're sitting 11 at the Superbook still. But they went 11.5 to 11. He said, due to some bets coming in on the dog, got to assume that's a little bit of sharp play early, or at the very least, people doing some line shopping, even if maybe they're not considered sharp bettors. And John notes, to your point, the Titans have been on a roll, but he does also note it has come mostly against weak competition. And today was more of that weak competition, which probably helped Malik Willis, who really didn't do much, but he also didn't have to do much because Derrick Henry just dominated that game. Just absolute beast on the field. But John notes, we know the public will be all over Kansas City here, especially in this time slot. This is the Sunday night game. And he said, especially with the Chiefs coming in rested off their bye week. So you got a rested Chiefs team coming off a convincing win at San Francisco. So they bounced back nicely from the home loss to Buffalo, smacked San Francisco pretty good in that second half, then got a week off to rest up, get a little healthy. The Chiefs are going to be ready for this game. But yes, to your point, they're buying in a little bit early on the Titans, thinking that's a little bit too big a number. And to your point on the Titans' record at this point, 5-2 straight up. Those 5 wins have come in a row, and they've covered in all 5 of those games too. So they've won 5 in a row on the field, and they've covered for bettors 5 in a row as well. So they've been profitable for a few weeks in a row here.
Yeah, you have to think that this might be a game that the books do well, right? Because people are going to be on that bigger number with the Titans having the record that they have, and they're on a little bit of a roll here. Sunday Night Football, so you'll get some good action on both of these teams. But I think if you really take a step back and put your thinking cap on, you go exactly what you said. The Chiefs coming off of a bye, fresh, come on. And, not for nothing, that Titans offense does not have A.J. Brown anymore, who is a beast, by the way.
Oh, my goodness. Yep.
What a game for him.
Today. Mm-hmm.
The Titans offense, unless Derrick Henry takes the air out of the ball, cannot keep up with Patrick Mahomes in any stretch of the imagination. It just can't happen. I don't care if it's Tannehill or Malik Willis playing quarterback. So I will actually bet the big number here on the Chiefs next weekend. The over-under is interesting at 47.5 because, again, I just don't see the Titans keeping up with the Chiefs. So, do I think the Chiefs will blow out the Titans? No. They're not going to blow them out in like a 45-0 fashion, right? So,
right. Mm-hmm.
I could see this being like a 24-10, 28-10 situation. Mm-hmm. So I might be on the under, surprisingly, in a Chiefs game. But I like to bet on Sunday Night Football, so I will be partaking on that end, Patrick. But it'll be fun. Anytime the Chiefs are in primetime, I'm interested.
Oh, I'm definitely interested. We'll see how this goes. I might be playing off of you. I might take like a first half under in that game. And, if the Titans can get the opening kick, they're going to want to grind clock as much as they can and keep KC off the field. So I might look at a first half under there too. But hopefully it's a better game than the spread indicates. And if the Titans can keep playing like they have been, then perhaps it will be.
Let's talk about a team that just wrapped up on Sunday Night Football, the Buffalo Bills, as 10.5-point favorites heading to the southern part of the state. Actually, it's New Jersey, and they're taking on the New York Jets, the over-under at 47.5 at FanDuel Sportsbook. And look, the Bills got the victory over Green Bay here, and the Green Bay made it interesting at the end, but it really wasn't all that interesting because the Packers needed to get the ball back a whole bunch to actually win that game. So Bills continue to roll here, and now they go up against a Jets team that just had a bad loss to a Patriots team that had a worse record than them. But the Jets, what are they, 5-3 on the year now?
Yep.
A lot of people have been calling them a faulty 5-3, and I think that got kind of exposed today, and the Bills are a wagon. So I think this one could get a little out of control. What say you?
I think it could. It's a pretty fat number to start. And the Superbook, various operators handle this a little bit differently. But what the Superbook does is when a team is playing in the current week's Sunday night or Monday night game, the odds for the following week's game, the upcoming week's game, which we're discussing right here with the Bills and Jets, comes off the board of the Superbook. They'll put Bills Jets back up tomorrow morning, but they did open it. They opened these numbers about an hour before the Sunday night game kicks off each week. So the Bills opened 11.5 at the Superbook. And again, they took it down as soon as the Packers and Bills kicked off earlier this evening. So, and the total opened 46.5. No movement on either of those in that hour or so that it was on the board at the Superbook. But as you noted, we've got numbers up that are still live elsewhere. So really not much to report out of the Superbook yet. We'll see what they do tomorrow morning based on, if they adjusted all based on what we saw out of the Bills tonight. And honestly, really, the Bills didn't do much in the second half. They sat on a big lead and made it hold up. It's not like they looked bad, but they didn't really. It's not like they ran away and hit. They almost let Green Bay back into that. But what John noted is that he said as well as the Jets have played during the first half of the season, they still don't get much respect in the betting markets. And he said that's evidenced by the fact that they were 3-point home dogs today against the Patriots, to your point. And he said, Buffalo, again, to your point, Buffalo is the best team in the NFL. We know where the money will be coming in here. So the Bills are going to see a ton of money, and the Chiefs are going to see a ton of money in Week 9, no question about it. And they're going to be in everybody's money line parlays and teasers and such too, with especially at those fat numbers on the spread.
Yeah, it's one of those things where the league, like we've talked about this season, it's been weird. Like the teams that we thought were going to be awesome haven't necessarily been awesome. The Eagles have been a lot more awesome than we thought they were going to be. I think we all thought the Eagles were going to have a nice season because they have a particularly easy schedule. And, they're trending in the right direction. They got some good young players. They bring in A.J. Brown. But outside of Philly, KC, and Buffalo, who's
good?
Yeah, like who else is there that you feel really good about, right? I know San Fran looked good today, but they get to 500 on the season now.
Exactly.
So maybe you can, if you're looking at the Super Bowl odds board, you can get some value right now in San Fran before they jump up here after a few weeks of McCaffrey in their system. When Debo gets healthy, that's going to be scary. But to my point here, we know Buffalo's good, and we know the Jets are young, and we know the Buffalo Bills are going to be looking to make that statement and say, we are the best team in the AFC East. We are the best team in the NFL. You are our little brother. It's time to take your beating. So I think that the Bills are going to come out and dominate.
As the sixth boy in a family of there were six. My parents had 9 kids. I am the 8th of 9, but I'm the last of 6 boys. I can totally relate to, you are the little brother. You are going to take your beating.
It's time to take your beating.
It was a wild household back in the day.
They took their beating this week against their older cousin, right? That comes in twice a year and gives them a whooping, and now they're going to go take a whooping from their big brother. It's just how it works. So I will be all over that 10.5. I know it's a big number. I bet that number goes up this week. I
would not be surprised.
Up a little bit because especially after the Bills taking care of business against a Green Bay team who hasn't looked good this season, but it's Green Bay, right? So, the bettor's going to say, hey, they just took care of business against Aaron Rodgers. What are they going to do against Zach Wilson? So,
and Buffalo's been a popular public play all season long, whether it's week to week in the games or in Super Bowl futures or player award, MVP futures, that sort of thing. The public cannot get enough of the Buffalo Bills, and I don't think that's going to change much after this week. And a big number. I don't disagree. I don't think the number is going to get below 10. I'll tell you that, unless there's like some injury news that comes out of Buffalo or something. And other than that, I think this is going to be a fat number and a tough chore for the New York Jets.
And look, I'm a Patriots fan. I have a hard time rooting against this Buffalo team. They're incredibly fun to watch. When Josh Allen,
super fun to watch.
Yeah, man. Like some of the stuff he's doing off his back foot, just slinging that thing around is unreal. And Steph Diggs, he's just fired up all the time. You see him talking crap pregame, and he's just he's so fast. He's got great hands. Gabe Davis, so fast, fun to root for that guy across the board. I love Von Miller. So, man, I might be a closet Bills rooter here. Don't tell any of my friends here in New England, but I wouldn't mind if the Bills finally got their ring. I really wouldn't.
Yeah, especially if they can keep doing it, playing this really entertaining brand of football. That's what we want to see.
Absolutely. We're always looking for fun football here. All right, let's talk about a team that we just discussed a little bit here. The Philadelphia Eagles, 13-point favorites heading into Houston. The over-under at 43.5. That coming to us from the Superbook out in Las Vegas. Eagles have been arguably one of the 3 best teams in the NFL. I think definitely the best team in the NFC. And Houston, although scrappy at times, has not looked good in a few weeks. So you have to imagine that the Eagles are going to continue to roll along here. Look, they are going to lose a game at some point. I was looking at their schedule today, and we could pull that up here in a second. There are some toss-up games, and they're just bound to lose. That's how it works. Only one team ever had an undefeated regular season in the modern era, and they didn't even win the Super Bowl. And we don't talk about that in these parts of the country. So, I think it's going to happen. It's not going to happen this week. I don't know if they win by 13. That's a big number. Patrick, what do you think?
Well, to your point, it's definitely it's a very big number. And there were even some 13.5s out there a little earlier this evening. I saw WinBet, well, really like in the last 30, 45 minutes. I saw WinBet at 13.5, and then they moved down to 13. Superbook opens 13 on this. And John Murray in his typical droll, sarcastic self, which I love. I like it. He said, these Thursday night games get better and better. And he's obviously his comment dripping with sarcasm there. But he noted we opened the Eagles 13, knowing the public action will be a one-way flood of money on Philly. He thinks Philly is the best team in the NFC, but he said, I'll be more interested to see the outcome when they play a team with both a pulse and a healthy starting QB. That is not the case this week. The Texans are not a team with a pulse or a healthy or a good starting QB, whether they're healthy or not. However, no movement tonight. Total 43 at the Superbook. And again, Eagles 13 on the spread. And I'm just going to double check. From what I saw earlier, there would a little bit ago, there had been no movement on that. And I think that's still the case. Yes, 13 and 43, still where we're sitting at the Superbook. Not sure, I don't know that this game will really get a lot of interest, a typical interest that a Thursday night game might get, except, the only reason it might is because you do have an undefeated team, and there's always fascination around that. And Philly's going to lead off everybody's parlays this week. So parlays, moneyline parlays, teasers, everybody's going to lead with the Eagles. So there'll certainly be some interest there that just carries over into the weekend.
How about Philadelphia, just the epicenter of the sports universe?
Oh, my goodness,
right now?
Yeah.
I mean, 5 years ago, maybe a little more than 5 years ago, but, the Eagles were crappy. The Sixers were going through the process, right?
Yeah, over and over.
The Flyers sucked, and the Phillies sucked. And I remember seeing a segment on Philly sports television that was like, which of these 4 teams is going to win the championship next? And there was no correct answer because they were all so bad. Mm-hmm. And since then, the Eagles have won a Super Bowl. Now the Phillies are playing in the World Series.
Yep.
The Sixers having some early season woes, but among the favorites to win the Eastern Conference if they get things right. Embiid's awesome. So, and look, the Flyers are a scrappy team in the NHL that got a weird mascot. So, and their soccer team's good. Shout out to the MLS.
I was just looking that up. I thought there was something going on there.
Did they win today? I think they played either today or tomorrow. I'm not super locked in on the MLS. I'm just gonna...
MLS Cup final is sometime soon.
I know that they're in the Final Four.
Yep.
If you
Philadelphia
and
LA Football Club are in the MLS Cup final.
There you go. So Philly soccer
it's a hotbed of championship potential activity.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. But that's why there's going to be interest, right? I mean, Philadelphia sports is hot right now. Mm-hmm. The Eagles are great. So any good team playing on Thursday Night Football, we're like, yes, okay, I'm interested. So
at least we'll be entertained by half the side out there, hopefully.
Right. I think it would be nice to see Philly blow Houston out in a weird way. Even if it's I don't want to see a close game. I want to feel good about the good teams in the NFL right now. Is that weird?
Exactly.
I kind of want Philly to go out there and whoop the Texans' buttocks. I also don't root for the Texans. Just a crappy franchise in general. I've gone on Texans rants before. We won't do that tonight. I hate the Texans. But the Eagles, the remaining schedule here, losable games, in my opinion. Again, I'm not saying they're going to lose all of these, but these are games that I could see them losing. Indy, Green Bay, Tennessee, Giants twice, and Dallas. So there's games that the Eagles will lose this season.
Right.
It's going to be one of those 6 that I mentioned.
Right. I talked to a couple of weeks back. I talked to BetMGM Vice President of Trading Jason Scott as they got to, I don't know if it was 4-0 or 5-0, but somewhere in that window there. And I said, as you look at the schedule, when's the next time they're going to be a dog? And he said, if they're healthy, they're going to be favored in every game up until they play Dallas on Christmas Eve and at Dallas. And he said, even then, he would probably at the time, and I don't think that he's going to change his mind at this point based on what we've seen these last couple of weeks. Although Dallas did look good today. I understand Chicago's bad, but at least Dallas did what you're supposed to do to a bad team, and that's beat the hell out of them. He said he'd make that game at the time. He said he'd make that a pick 'em. So even then, he wouldn't have Philly necessarily a dog. But the next game he thinks they have a chance to be a dog in, even provided they stay healthy, is not until Christmas Eve. So, and then it gets really interesting. Depending on what their record is, and if they're running away with the East, if they've already got the number 1 seed wrapped up, they may not, they may be a dog. I think they play the Giants the last game of the season. Is that right? Last game of the regular season.
Yes.
So they may be sitting everybody. They may be starting the water boy that week if they can, because you certainly want to be healthy for the playoffs, unless they're 17-0. Then it's really fascinating. That is so far off. That is so far off.
That would be crazy. Yep. I just don't know that.
I don't think
about that 07 Pats team that was undefeated heading into the last week of the season. They had Tom freaking Brady, Bill Belichick, and a flurry of guys on the defensive side of the ball that are like fringe Hall of Famers, probably should be Hall of Famers, but we won't get into that debate.
Randy Moss was on that team. Was Randy Moss on that
team?
Oh,
yeah. Randy Moss post-prime was getting the ball from Tom Brady. So,
yeah.
I mean, this Eagles team is not that. Let's not kid ourselves.
Right. But the NFC is not that good.
It's a bad schedule. So it's weird. If those two teams played each other, the Patriots would be a 2-touchdown favorite, right? But let's not do the hypotheticals here. I don't want to make the Philly audience angry at me.
It's a fun story for now. Let's ride it while
why not?
While it's there.
And just a note on the Christmas conversation with Philly, you have to imagine that they might be a dog on Christmas because, I mean, they booed and threw snowballs at Santa Claus. That's bad karma right there.
You're kind of.
I feel like you lose a point or two on the line there just for the bad Santa vibes there. They play on Christmas Eve in Dallas. So let's move on to two teams that have been surprising this year. The Chargers, a 3-point favorite heading to Atlanta, who are in first place in the NFC South.
First place Atlanta Falcons, ladies
weirdest
and
year I can remember in a long time. The over-under at 46.5. And can we talk about for a second that if you had Panthers money line, that's got to be one of the worst beats of all time today. DJ Moore taking the helmet off after he catches what should have been the game-winning touchdown. The kicker so he takes his helmet off. They get the penalty, moves the extra point back. Kicker misses the extra point. They lose an OT. And man, because I was looking at the Panthers money line odds throughout the week. If you were on them early, you would have had them at plus 225 early in the week. And at kickoff, it got up to plus 165. So good value all the way up to kickoff with the Panthers, and you just saw that money slip away. That's why we play the game, folks. So, man. Anyways, Falcons on the good end of that, having a season no one expected them to have.
Right.
Chargers not as good as we thought they were going to be. Have been banged up, obviously, but not necessarily living up to expectations. But this is what the Chargers do, right? We always are like the Chargers. This is their year, and they haven't done it. So,
right.
What is Vegas saying about this game? I think it's a really, really interesting one because of both teams involved.
No, absolutely. And the Falcons, they got out of the gate 6-0 against the spread, covered in their first 6 games, all as an underdog, by the way. They were underdogs in all 6 of those games. They were also underdogs in week 7, did not cover against Cincinnati. And then, of course, they did not cover today. I think they were laying 4.5 today. Yeah, 4.5 today was the closing number, I believe. And they win by 3 in overtime. Very fortuitous straight-up win, but Falcons couldn't cover the number. And what John Murray said this evening, we opened the Chargers -3 here, even though it's always hard to trust this team, which speaks to exactly what you've been saying these last couple of minutes. He said Atlanta gave that game away today against Carolina and then had Carolina give it right back. But he did note, as I just mentioned, the Falcons have been solid as a dog all season. We should see good two-way action here. And again, Atlanta was a dog in their first 6 games, covered all 6 of them. They are 6-1 against the spread as a dog on the year now, because they were favored today. So a dog last week, it was their first spread loss as a dog. So, getting points at home, it's definitely going to be interesting. I think people are going to be on that trend with Atlanta. And I think Atlanta's season win total was 5.5 or 6 or something like that. They're 4-4. I mean, look, the NFC South is obviously dreadful at this point, and I don't know none of us can figure out what's going on with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But the bottom line is Atlanta's in first place, and I think their win total was like 5.5, 6, something like that. And they're 4-4. I mean, you got 9 games to go, and if you go basically 2-7, 3-6, you're gonna cash some tickets for some people. So good on the Falcons.
Yeah, I think actually their season win total was like 4.5. Like they
really okay. Then they're even closer than I thought.
Yeah, so it's been a wild year for the Falcons here, and I want to give you a second here to talk about the Chargers not meeting expectations, and you as an AFC West guy and a Broncos fan, how that must warm your heart to see another AFC West team at the kind of the not where they're supposed to be at this point in the year. Broncos, Raiders, Chargers. Remember early in the year we were talking about how great this this division was, and look where we are now. Raiders get absolutely embarrassed today.
Oh my gosh, they got
your Broncos we don't even need to talk about what's been going on with them all season.
Right.
And the Chargers just, they're not doing what we thought they would. The AFC West, man, yikes.
No, exactly. And I think we also touched on this though. The potential was there for it to be a great division, but also that they might cannibalize each other. It's a tough schedule going against each other each week. And granted, these games, they're not even playing each other necessarily this week. The Broncos were playing the Jags in London, and the Chargers now going to I believe they're coming off a bye. Coming off a bye, going to play a non-conference game against the Falcons. But the Chargers were a very trendy off-season pick in Super Bowl odds, which is something I note in the NFL Week 9 odds and action report, which is an article live on VegasInsider.com right now with a whole bunch of information we're giving you and then some in this live stream tonight. But they were a trendy offseason pick in Super Bowl odds. Took a couple of big plays at the Superbook. I know there's a couple of decent sized tickets out there that could win pretty well, even at like 20-1, 18-1, 16-1, and so forth. But to your point, just a game above 500, and they got spanked by Seattle going into their bye week, 37-23 loss at home. That's 4.5-point chalk. So, Seattle's a little better than expected too, but still this Chargers team is not what people thought they were going to be. So we'll see how this turns out this week in Atlanta. I don't think this is an ideal spot for the Chargers, with the exception that they are at least coming off the bye. Maybe Herbert is kind of shaking off all of that, whatever it was, where he got dinged early in the season. Maybe if he's 100%, I do love the guy. I think he's a freaking tremendous quarterback. But I don't know that this cross-country road trip is the best thing for them, but maybe this is their get-right game. We'll see.
We are past midnight here on the East Coast. It is now Monday. Welcome to Monday. We're 18 minutes into your first day of the work week, so congratulations. And
thanks for joining us, staying up late.
There you go. And you're still out, enjoying your Sunday evenings there on the West Coast in Vegas with Patrick Everson. It is the opening line report for Week 9 of the NFL season. I am TommyFreezePops. That is Patrick Everson, and we're here after every Sunday night football game, giving you the early looks at the odds for the upcoming week in the NFL season. And I know we have one game left in Week 8, but we're past that already. We got to get the early edge here on Week 9. So before we even talk about Monday Night Football between the Bengals and Browns, the Battle of Ohio, let's talk about another AFC North team. 3.5-point favorites in the Big Easy, taking on the Saints, who look great today. Took care of business against the Raiders. 48.5 is the over-under at FanDuel Sportsbook. And I'm curious what Vegas has to say about this one, because Ravens, another team that we had really, really high expectations for, and were a part of the reason why we all thought the AFC was going to be this dominant conference this year. And look, they're winning, but it's not at a level that we thought it would be. They've had some close calls here. The Harbaugh decision making late has been exactly what it always has been, right? So
a roller coaster.
It always is, right? So they're 3.5-point favorites heading into New Orleans, who has been like the most Jekyll Hyde team I can remember. So what is Vegas saying here about the purple heading in against the black and gold?
Right. Well, they actually at the Superbook they opened 3, and they're still at 3 right now. 3-48 on the total. Those numbers, as I look at my Superbook mobile app right now, are holding on this Sunday evening. No movement there at all. And what John Murray said is, hey, we opened 3, although I have to admit that I was impressed with the Saints defense today. This is John Murray speaking. He said the Ravens have played to a high power rating all season and have 3 extra days off to prepare because they played in the week 8 Thursday nighter. So they get kind of that mini bye before they have to roll into this game, go down to the Big Easy and take on the Saints. But he notes, much like with Kansas City and with Buffalo, he said the public will be squarely on Baltimore here, probably pretty heavily. And this being the Monday night game, the money line teasers, the money line parlays, I should say, that survive the weekend, that survive Sunday, are almost assuredly going to run to Baltimore on Monday night. But the Saints, I mean, look, Alvin Kamara had a really good day, and the Saints put a beat down on the local Las Vegas Raiders here. Shut them out. Vegas not even able to score in that 24-0 loss. So it's kind of an interesting game. And to your point, it's like you feel like Baltimore is maybe a good team, but it took them 8 weeks into the season to win 2 games in a row. So are you a good team if it takes you half the season darn near to get 2 consecutive wins? Now, perhaps they are. If they go down and win next week, you get to 6-3. I think it starts to look a little more interesting. And you start to think that maybe there's another team kind of in the mix here. It's hard to see how the Ravens can keep up with the Chiefs or the Bills. Although the Ravens did keep up with the Bills. The Ravens played the Bills very well. They let a game get away. They should have won. They're probably going to wish they had that game later in the season, especially if that somehow ends up deciding home field advantage or something. But again, it shouldn't take 8 weeks for a team that's good to get back-to-back wins. So we'll see if this is the beginning, now that the Ravens have done that, if this is the beginning of them really getting on track and taking control of that division, or if that division continues to be just kind of a muddled mess where everybody's still in play.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about one of those other teams in the division right now, Monday Night Football tonight, on the East Coast at least tonight. 3.5-point favorites, the Bengals, heading into Cleveland, the Battle of Ohio. They take on the Browns, the over-under at 45.5 on the VI consensus line. And look, hey, Jamar Chase not going to be part of that offense here for a significant period of time. So you're going to, like you talked about, the Ravens are going to wish they had that other win, and they're going to want to start to stack some wins here because Burrow loses his number one dude, and that's going to impact that offense. I don't care what you say. They've got other good receivers. I get it. But Chase and Burrow, it's just different. It just totally different. So the Browns, they love to take the air out of the ball. Nick Chubb's having a fantastic season. But Brissett's going to be handing the ball off to him, and they're going to try and keep that Bengals offense without Chase off the field as much as possible. And I kind of like the Browns at plus 3.5 here heading into Monday Night Football, given what's going on with Cincy. And they haven't really looked right all season either.
Nope.
So
just like a whole bunch of these other teams we discussed.
Like everybody. It's
Tampa,
so
the Rams,
weird.
the Niners, these teams that we all thought would be potentially really good. The Bengals are another one of them that is just not really good right now. But and to your point, I think 3 in the hook. I think the Browns is the way to go. The Browns getting 3 in the hook at home, I don't think is a bad play at all. Now, that said, I'm looking at, and these are splits that update about every 10 minutes or so from DraftKings, and tickets and money. And keep in mind, a lot of the tickets and money, a fair amount come in on the weekend on the Monday night game, but not nearly what comes in on game day. So there's still going to be a lot of bets coming in on this, but I don't think it's going to change the trends very much. And right now you got 5-1 tickets and 4-1 money on the spread on the Bengals. There are some threes out there. So if you like the Bengals, shop around a little bit. I see the Superbook is at 3 minus 120. But as Tommy, as you pointed out, there's some 3.5s out there too. And I think at 3.5, it's worth a go on the home team with the Bengals being without Chase. The Bengals not looking particularly great this season, not looking really like the defending AFC champions, not looking like the team that ran through the playoffs. I mean, keep in mind, that team didn't have a great record going into the playoffs. They just made a nice run through the playoffs. They
got hot.
They got hot at the right time. And I cashed a little bit on that, which was great. I had them 25-1. I got them in late December, 25-1 to win the Super Bowl. And when they finally got ahead in the Super Bowl, 20-16, late in that game, I was then able to hedge out of it with a money line bet on the Rams to make damn sure I won some money. But it took all the way up until the fourth quarter or whatever it was to get an in-play bet on the Rams to win the game on the money line to make sure I cashed. But that's a long story, and you probably all didn't tune in to hear this at 12:30.
No, this is what we love.
But
we love it.
But yeah, the Bengals don't look like that team. Haven't really looked like. I mean, they've shown it in flashes, and when you've got Jamar Chase, you can certainly show it. But when you don't, I mean, he's a real difference maker. He's a guy who's going to be worth. I mean, quarterbacks are always going to be worth a few points to the spread, maybe even half a dozen or a touchdown. We've seen it this season when you've had a good QB go down. We saw it with the huge line movement when Dak went out after week 1 for the Cowboys. But skill position players, they'll impact it a little, usually not much. But I think Jamar among skill position players outside of quarterback is definitely one who's going to impact that number a little bit. So 3 in the hook with the Browns. I think if you're going to tell me I have to bet it, I'm betting 3 in the hook with the Browns for sure.
Yeah, and they've been scrappy this year, the Browns.
Exactly.
I mean, they've been in a lot of games that people didn't think they would be. So, yeah, give me that Browns hook. I love it. Shout out to our guy TJ on YouTube saying, here and following. There you go. If you guys are doing the same.
I know TJ. What's going on,
thanks
TJ?
For checking in, man. You are here and you are following, and others should do the same. If you are watching us on Twitter, go ahead and follow us on Twitter at VegasInsider. If you're watching us on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I think it's right here, or it's in that direction. Go hit that. You guys want our content? We want to give it to you. We all want to be friends here. So we love it. We're at 12:27 here on the East Coast, and we are going to hit a couple of quick hitters here. I want to shout out to Bill on Twitter saying, quote, I want no part of that Seattle-Arizona game, especially with Arizona as the favorite. And I thought that was really, really weird to see when I was putting this list together. The Cardinals, 3.5-point favorites at home against Seattle. Are we all just watching different games here? I mean, Seattle looked dominant today against that Giants team. I thought this was a statement game for them. What's going on with this line?
Yeah, that's really that's an interesting one. I don't know what to make of Arizona, but for some reason today, this morning, when I did my pregame video before the week 8 early kicks, Jason Scott at BetMGM said, for whatever reason, even though the Vikings are 5-1, they're all over the Cardinals on the spread and on the money line. The Cardinals were a loser for BetMGM today on the spread and money line if they would have gotten there, which they did not. Obviously did not. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is there. I will say this. I heard a fascinating stat today that I really couldn't believe, but it's not, the person's not lying. I mean, it's the truth. You can look it up. Cliff Kingsbury on the road as a dog prior to today, 15-3-2 against the spread. I believe that's from my buddy Sam Panayotowicz. 15-3-2. Obviously now 15-4-2. Still a phenomenal record, but that speaks to part of Arizona's problem. They've been, with the exception of today, they've been good on the road this season. They have not been good at home. They're not that good overall. I think they got a home win a week or two ago, and it was like their first home win since the middle of last season. They really struggled to get to the playoffs last year. It's just been a different team for whatever reason. And I think Cliff Kingsbury might be looking for a new job if that persists. But 3.5, yeah, I agree. I don't want any part of the game. If you're like, okay, you have to bet it, I'll take the road dog 3 in the hook. but I'd rather just stay away from it because I'm not. Look, Seattle's been great. They got one of the Chargers and the win this week, but I still I'm a little reticent to put my money behind them any more than I put my money behind the Denver Broncos. Although the Seahawks are much better than the Denver Broncos, I'm not making that comparison either. I could see why you'd want to lay off that game, but if you got to bet it, I think you could do worse than taking 3 in the hook with the team that seems to be playing better, at least more consistent anyway.
I just went ahead and bet it while I was off screen just now. I'm getting it before it moves. Seattle plus 3.5 with the way they've been playing and the way Arizona has looked stinky. Mm-hmm. I mean, look, Call of Duty just came out. We know Kyler Murray's about to take a dip. That's what happens, right? So
he's going to be busy. He's going to get 10 days removed from
Call of Duty coming out. Like we're going to start to see a regression here. He needs to get through that campaign mode. Yeah. So I'm going with Seattle here. Kenneth Walker might be a top 5 running back in the NFL already. He's got those fresh legs, right? You see these young running backs pop, and he's doing fantastic in his rookie season coming out of Michigan State. He was incredibly fun to watch at the college level. He got healthy, and now he has been an absolute joy to watch in Seattle. And we know Pete Carroll loves his running backs too. Yep. Like Russell Wilson probably wasted part of his prime playing in that offense, handing the ball off to Chris Carson, 30 times a game. So Kenneth Walker being a guy that can be sort of a guy that dominates a game in a Pete Carroll offense. And look, DK Metcalf now not going to have to miss the entire season like we all thought he might have to. Tyler Lockett, he probably had his big bonehead game of the season where he dropped a bunch of probable touchdowns and he had missed the fumble. Like Seattle has good juju right now. Like I'm following the juju here. And Geno Smith, I mean, the Jets, they have their game with Zach Wilson today. They're probably going to look at the highlights tonight and be like, man, I mean, week after week, Geno Smith has proven that he belongs, man. He looks great.
He's all right. And I can tell you now, look, this is going to be from a very limited number of bets on NFL Week 9. But currently at DraftKings, 75% of early spread bets are on the Seahawks. Now, that's only translating to 52% of early spread money. So the spread money is almost dead even. And this could be a very small pot, folks. This could literally be like a few $1,000 or maybe even less at this stage. But of the tickets written, 75% of the tickets written are taking Seahawks on the spread. They're just they're taking them for lower dollar amounts apparently, and that's why the money is running so much closer, 52-48 in favor of Seattle. But they don't. They're liking the Seahawks early on, at least at DraftKings at the moment.
NFL Comeback Player of the Year odds. Saquon is the favorite right now at minus 225. Geno Smith plus 450. I'm just saying. Let's say Seattle makes the playoffs and the Giants somehow miss because they're 6-1 heading into today, and we all know they're not a 6-1 team. But let's say the Giants go on this crazy losing streak. Seattle somehow gets in. Yeah, go get Geno Smith right now. And another name I see on there that I like, Christian McCaffrey at plus 900.
Oh, yeah. Man, did he have a game today.
And he's about to have, this Kyle Shanahan rebirth in that offense, both catching the ball and with that zone blocking that the Kyle Shanahan and the Shanahan offense loves to do. I mean, giving McCaffrey sort of that freedom to read the defense and go. I like the Niners are going to be must-see TV for me the rest of the season, just to watch him in that offense healthy. So those are two guys that I'm going to sprinkle on at the moment. And look, Saquon is having a great season, so don't get me wrong. And if the Giants make the playoffs, he's got the New York buzz. But I like both of those plays in the Comeback Player of the Year market. So it is 12:34 here on the East Coast. Patrick, are there any other games that jump out to you for the Week 9 slate? I know me personally, I'm looking at the Vikings as a 3-point favorite taking on Washington. Kirk Cousins revenge game. 3-point favorites. Vikings have looked good. Washington's got Heineke. In a weird way, this is kind of a stay away game for me because Kirk Cousins seems to get kind of frazzled in these big spots. And look, he's taking on his former team in Washington, and Taylor Heineke's got the juice, right? Like when that guy's out there, the team plays better. And I don't know. I'm not picking the Commanders to win on the money line here, but I could see this one being a fun, close game. Kirk Cousins throws a couple picks. Maybe McLaurin has a big game. McLaurin is a guy. I said this to my buddies today watching football. I wish he played for a team with like an elite quarterback because I think he is one of the most underrated players in the NFL. That guy is an absolute baller. I love Terry McLaurin. I love watching that guy play. So this is a game that I have circled at the moment. I think Minnesota might be slightly fraudulent at the record that they're at. I know I loved them preseason, but I don't know. That's where I stand. What do you think about
it? Seems like a good trap spot for them.
Yeah.
I'm seeing at the Superbook right now, they are -3, -120. So that means they're kind of shading towards 3.5 potentially. But also in looking at DraftKings numbers, again, pretty much up to the minute within the last 10 minutes, and nobody's betting this in the middle of the night. And honestly, not many people are betting it at all. But for whoever is betting it, 97% of early tickets and 99% of early money on the Minnesota Vikings. So I got to guess that there's like maybe 5 bets on this game, and that's why it's worked out that way. That's why it's so overwhelming. Like, or maybe there's 10 bets and like 9 of them are on the Vikings, and, and almost all the money's on the Vikings, something like that, something unusual like that. But for whatever, for what it's worth, that's the early betting splits on this game leaning toward Minnesota. And again, -3, -120 at the Superbook. I'm not sure exactly what they are. I guess I could check because I have the DraftKings app on my phone. Let's see what they are at DK really quick. Because I don't think this is right. The DK splits page I'm looking at is showing them at it's showing them at 2.5, and I don't think they're 2.5. I think that was probably the opener. Yeah. They're 3 -120 at DK as well. So trending toward 3.5 there. If you like the Vikings, you might want to think about that. Well, first off, you should have gotten the 2.5. But if you must, then you may not want to wait on that because it's trending toward 3.5 at this point.
Another game I'm looking at here: Colts in New England. And maybe this is me just being a skittish New England fan. This is just in my blood. I don't know that the Pats should be 5.5-point favorites over the Colts. And I know the Colts have had a weird season, but I just still think they have really good talent. Maybe this is because Belichick's awesome defense is going up against Sam Ehlinger, who looked okay today. Looked okay. Kept it close. I don't know. 5.5. I might be more inclined to go on the under here, given the fact that the Colts offense hasn't really been able to do much, even though they got really good backs. But again, Ellinger's there. So how much can you really do? What's your ceiling? And the Pats offense, while, it had its moments this week with the Jets, I'm still just not ready to go all in on my Patriots here. So 40.5 is kind of a low number, but I think I'm going to be on the under here. That's kind of my play at the moment here.
And it's
what do you
down.
think?
It's coming down too. DraftKings has got 39.5. Superbook is at 39.5. By the way, Patriots are.
So go get 40.5 if you can get it right now.
Exactly. Patriots are 6 at Superbook and 6.5 at DK at this moment. So that would probably make you even less inclined to take the Patriots, I would assume, Tom. And currently, pretty much all the bets and all the money early in the small pot, not much going on, but most of what DraftKings is seeing early is almost entirely on the spread anyway, is almost entirely on the Colts. Actually, they're hitting the dog early. I don't think it's a lot of tickets. I know it's not a lot of tickets. I know it's not a lot of money, but the early trend is that people are taking those points, the 6.5, depending on where you shop, with the road dog at this point. I'm not sure I see it. I'm not sure I see either side of that. That looks like a stay away. Go mess around with the total if you want. Like Tommy said, if you can get a 40.5, get it, because there are 39.5s out there already at DraftKings, Superbook, and probably elsewhere. All
right. It is 54 minutes into the broadcast, Patrick, and I think I'm going to call it here. Unless there's
I got other work to do. I got some things to
I thought you were about to say you had some more nuggets for me. I was going to all right, I guess we'll hit some more nuggets here.
I'll tell you what. Let's throw them out with one more thing. And we already talked about the Monday night game.
Here we go.
Let's
surprise
talk
nugget
about
here
at DraftKings, since the Titans Chiefs is the Sunday night game, and that's probably arguably the biggest game of the week. At DraftKings right now, almost dead even ticket count early on. So this is Sunday night, hours after the opening lines go up. 57% of early money on the Tennessee Titans. So kind of liking that double-digit dogs. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the trend early, and there was some sharp play. As in case you didn't catch the very top of the broadcast, I think there was some sharp play, or at least some good line shoppers out early, taking 11 with the Titans, or 11.5 even with the Titans. The Superbook opened 11.5 and moved to 11 pretty quickly. I think the Superbook is still at 11. Still at 11. So, you might, if you shop around a little bit, if you like the Titans, you might still be able to get 11 rather than having to settle for that 10.5. However, to Tom's point, also early in this podcast, at both our points, the public is going to be on the Chiefs. That number may go back up as we head toward kickoff. So if you like the Chiefs, I don't think this is getting below, unless we hear about an injury or something. I don't think this is getting below 10, and it's probably not getting below 10.5. So if you must dabble with the Chiefs on the spread, you might want to do it sooner rather than later. That perhaps the same thing could be said for the Buffalo Bills, which we talked about as well.
Bills, a 10.5 point favorite heading to the Meadowlands. All right, that's going to do it for the opening line report here on the Vegas Insider YouTube channel. Subscribe to the channel. Go over to Twitter. Follow us on that platform as well at Vegas Insider. Go ahead and give my man Patrick a follow here. Patrick E_Vegas. And follow me right here at your boy TC Fresh, YABOI TC Fresh. That's going to do it. We'll talk next Sunday. You guys have been cool. We love you. See ya.
Peace out. Have a week.